Hi everyone. Hi Anu and Kushagra. First and foremost, thank you so much for doing this. Welcome to the very first episode of Vitasta Dialogues. And it is my absolute privilege to have both of you here because both of you are like one of those authors whose work I really look up to. You both have written such enriching books, and the kind of themes that you talk about in your books are so relevant, like in a time where there's so much of chaos and confusion around. I mean, your books are that ray of hope that one can turn to during this very chaotic time. So welcome Anu and Kushagra.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vini. Thank you so much.
Happy to be here.
Great. So since our discussion is called the Dharma living, what are the principles of Dharma and how both of you have explored it? So what I've essentially done is that since I am one of those fortunate few people who have read both of your books, I've actually seen some themes which I thought were very common to both of your works. So let me dive right to the questions. So, both of your books comes from very different contexts. Even though the theme is very similar, the contexts are very different. Anuman, your book is more about the legacy of the Bishnoi community and the contribution that they have done towards environmental, say, conservation. And Kushagra, you are looking at the Sundar Kand and Hanuman as a figure of, so in your book you are basically focusing on his lessons and the kind of values that he embodies. So my first question to both of you is that what do you think is the role of stories in propagating the principles of dharma? And since both of you are essentially storytellers, how has it shaped you as individuals? So Anuman, would you like to start?
That's a good question. So I think we were a land of storytellers, right? But somewhere along the line, we forgot to tell our own stories. We forgot to take a grip on our own narratives. And we totally forgot that we don't have to peddle a Western narrative, but we have to tell our own stories our way. Now, this is something which I bring out a lot in my discussions. That the importance of storytelling is that it distills a much bigger concept into something which is bite-sized, which can be consumed by people. But of course, then the thing is that we don't have to just remain in the story. We have to remember the principle that was governing it also. So while India became a land of storytellers, the Puranas took over, the Puranic Kathas took over, we did not lose sight of the Dharma Shastras in that sense. But that said, we kind of forgot to connect it with the larger principle. And that's why it seems that, we got a little lost on our way. And I think that's what the current generation is doing, especially when I see Kushagra, people writing so much, I see that, yes, we are connecting back to the larger principle that was there in all our stories, and the principle was of living life in a dharmic way, a righteous way, our own karma, our own dharma. So yes, storytelling is hugely important. We have to learn it. We have to tell our own narratives, yet not lose sight of the bigger principle.
Yes. One of the things that I found very interesting in, ma'am, your response is that how you're talking about not losing sight of the bigger picture and how there are these interconnections that just come into the picture when you start writing. Kushagra, your book is particularly very well researched. Like whoever has read your book, I mean, from my network especially, that's one quality that people have noticed, that you have not written about things like just by exploring it on the surface. You've actually got into the depth of these truths. So how have this journey shaped you as a storyteller?
I think Vinny, it was needed to actually, because when you're presenting something like the Ramayana, which people, for me, like I wrote it, and my connection with the stories, as Anu ma'am says, like I was one of those people who just used to treat these stories as a medium of connecting to the divine. Oh, this is a tool for bhakti yoga. But then slowly and steadily you start realizing, as you start living your life, and people are associating you with a particular say a way of living and everything, and then they start seeing a little chinks in your armor, right? They're like, अरे भक्ति तो बहुत करते हो तुम, तुम्हारे तमीज नहीं है, तुम्हें ये ठीक नहीं है, वो ठीक नहीं. And you start realizing, यार, am I really adopting, like as ma'am said, that yes, shastras were there, but losing sight of the bigger picture here means that these stories, again, as ma'am said, they were, I feel that even when Bhagwan appears, like for me again, these deities are stories. They're living characters for me. They're realities for me. It's not that Ram was just he's a fictitious character. Some section of people want to believe it. Well, good for them. I'm not going to go and context them. For me personally, on a personal level, he is an avatar, right? Now then I think, why couldn't an avatar, an all-powerful god, not sit inside Ravana's heart and create some issue, some trouble? चाबी घुमाओ, मार डालो उसको. Why do you have to come and do all this drama, Baba? Then you realize, okay, it is not as simple as Krishna puts in the Bhagavad Gita that, paritranaya sadhuna vinashya dushkritam. I also feel that Bhagwan, again, coming from bhakti perspective, it is for us. It is for us. When Krishna says something in the Gita, and in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a beautiful line which says, "Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavad pranitam." What is dharma? It is what God actually says and embodies. So, okay, for that, God has to come. He has to play this role of a human being. He has to become a little more relatable. It is not just so that we put him on an altar and we do our puja and seva and sadhana, which is important. I always say, I also do it, but I also slowly and steadily need to start emulating what he did in his pastimes. He or she, the Sita, Hanumanji, Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, Shatrugna, all these people set beautiful examples of how I can live my day-to-day life. So the reason I thought here, it is a story, it is celebrated almost every Saturday. There are some families who will do Sundarkand ka part, which is very, very good and amazing. But I realized, oh, kahin na, it is for alleviating themselves from the pain of Shani Graha, or to get something else, again, which is also good. But transformation of the heart, that is something which is very, very needed right now in this very moment, and also which comes through Shraman, Manan, and Nididhyasan, that you need to read, study, learn, try and apply those principles in your life. So that was the whole idea and intent, and I'm so grateful that somehow, at least for me, it is just that even if one person like Anumam, I'm so grateful that, again, because I'm a fan of the work that you do.
Likewise.
It's fantastic. I'm great. I'm
Mutual
happy.
fans.
Yeah, I think it was very beautifully answered, because while you were talking about your creative journey, you also talked about how there was a personal evolution going on within you, maybe subtle, but it was still very much there, and that has transformed you into who you are today. So, while you were talking and while Anu ma'am was also talking, there is this sense of devotion and beauty that runs very true to who both of you are, like both as a storyteller and as an individual. Like Anu ma'am, of course, but apart from being an author, you are a lawyer, and you are very, very closely, say, connected to your community. So your social consciousness is very, very evolved. And Kushagra, of course, like you are always one of those few people who practice what he preaches. So you are not just saying it for the word, for the books, but you also believe it in real life. So, the very idea of devotion and beauty is very intrinsic to the Dharma living. How do you both see it, like in contemporary context? What has your experiences been in just exploring these two ideas? So, Anuman, would you like to go first?
Taking a cue from what Kushagra was saying, people do bhakti because they are distressed. A lot of times they are distressed and they want to come out of that distress. That forms the majority of the chunk of the bhaktas, so as to say. Krishnji defines bhaktas in a very nice way. He says that there are 4 categories of bhaktas, which is, the first one is the arthas, who are depressed, who are distressed rather. So sorry, not depressed, but distressed. They want something, mera ye theek ho jaye, mera wo theek ho jaye. They're forever wanting something or the other, basically to pull them out of the distress. Then there are the artharthis, who are seekers of some kind of a material desire, कि मैं ये कर दूंगा, आप मेरे लिए ये कर दो. And it's a transactional relationship with the divine which happens. And then they are the jigyasus. This is what the Bhagavad Gita says, that the jigyasus are people who are curious, knowledge seekers, curious. And we were a knowledge seeking civilization. We've always been a knowledge seeking civilization, right? So that becomes one level above that. But the highest level that Krishna says, the ones who are most dear to me, are the ones who are jnanis, the wise, the self-realized, the yogis kind of thing. That's the goal even in bhakti that we have. It's not just one. So when we are totally distressed and we are doing some kind of bhakti, it is nice, we have to do it, right? But let's not again leave the bigger picture out, that we have to come to that level where we come out of that transactional relationship also with Ishwar, and we become that jnanis. Oh, eventually. No, I'm not saying we'll become today, but the 4-step process is given so clearly to us. So a lot of times I think that when we connect back to the original text, usme classifications are very nicely done, the definitions are very nicely done. There is no scope of being Brahmit. Versus when we get our learning, most of our learning from Kathavachans, which is also good, storytelling like we were talking about is excellent. भ्रमित होने का scope बहुत है, because then we lose sight of the interpretations and the original descriptions. The original descriptions do not confuse you at all.
So true.
है ना?
Yes.
So
That is
that's what I feel.
that is so beautifully articulated. We
I
also
didn't
have
say it, Krishna said it.
but you remember it by heart. I think that's the beauty of talking to you, Anu ma'am, that your
Exactly.
command over your say work is so strong. Like it's very admirable, honestly, that you do your research and you're so well known and well say read in the subject that you deal with. So while you were talking about say your experience, I was also thinking about Kushagra's work because devotion and beauty is central to your book. That's if I mean in my interpretation, it is pretty much the core value that drives the narrative. So what do these qualities mean to you as a storyteller, and how has it shaped you as an individual?
I'll tell you a little funny anecdote from my own life and story. So, I why I mentioned, when I spoke earlier about the need to start embodying all these things and start to follow all these things, was because when I had my first reality check, thanks to one of my, an ex girlfriend, she told me that, you keep reading all these things, keep talking about all these things, it doesn't translate into your behavior, because that person saw me closely. Now see, when you said na Viniki nahi, it shows in your action. See, it's very easy for me to show in the action when I'm meeting Anu ma'am, when I'm meeting you, when I'm meeting people, when I don't have to interact with them for too long a time. What I realized, that, and especially also when ma'am said so beautifully, that when you're sometimes just depending upon the kathavachaks or somebody else to deliver those stories and not doing your own research, not delving into these stories, it is a very helpful start. Somebody holds your hand, somebody inspires you. It happened with me by God's grace, that, oh, some kathavachak, oh nice, Krishna stories. I began with Krishna stories, and then I'm slowly and steadily getting into other scriptures. Now, what happens is that when you start reading something like the Ramayana, on which this my book is inspired from, I realize that it's just story. I just tried to present everything as it is, and of course, given some of my own interpretations at the end of each chapter. The point here is, I realized, hey, dude, when you are worshipping Rama, the true worship of Rama is also to try and imbibe whatever it is that he represents, and he is, he represents Dharma. He is what, following the right thing, doing the right thing, doing the right action. And for each and every individual, it can be it is very personal, right? But you can learn from Sri Ram how to take the right kind of decisions, even the most difficult moments of your life. Hanumanji, again in this book, is the journey that is there. And you realize, oh, you know what? It's not that everything is a miracle. Oh, Sri Ramachandra, he's the avatar of Bhagwan Sriman Narayan, that everything worked out for him. No, he has to make the hard calls, he has to make the hard decisions, he has to. And his character, Baba, when you read about him, when you read the Ramayana properly, authentically, all these confusions that happen, I sometimes see, I am so amazed when people then end up comparing him to Ravana. You're like, dude, have you even read the book? have you even read the book? This is my question. And people still come up and ask me. I remember I'd made a reel on, mentioning that Ravana in the Ramayana, it is mentioned that he had raped women. And some person who never ever interacts with any other reel, he says, how is it possible? I said, I'll give you a reference because I know this is going to happen. So I am ready with the reference, Baba. This is the reference. Go read the Valmiki Ramayana. This is the verse. This is the shloka. This is the sarga. आप जाके पढ़ लीजिए. Because only when we read authentically, properly, then there is some chance, na, Vinny, and I'm sure, ma'am, like, when I read, the one thing that I really loved about this book, na, isme, na, ma'am talks about how this, the Bishnois, how they're living, it comes organically to them. किसी बताना नहीं पड़ रहा. अब इतना धर्म उनके entrenched हो चुका है in their way of, it's way of living. There are no tenets. It's not like there are 10 commandments or ऐसा कुछ बताना है, चीजें करना है. This is the way of life. So I feel for people like me, I am still learning, I'm still growing, I still want to do so much better. I know there are so many, ways in which I lack, but I feel, oh, if I have the right kind of ideals, if I am associating Satsanga through Ramayana, through Mahabharata, through Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, if I keep reading it again and again, I will have the right kind of ideals to follow, and then it should obviously translate into my behavior, into my action, and then it naturally, then you start becoming an example for people around you, and you start to you become that one link and chain for a change, right? You're part of this chain, and thoda whatever small little thing you're doing, it will start inspiring change into other people. So I think that is why it is very, very important. So read it or try and learn it, understand it, have the right kind of ideals. Like here, we're talking about Bishnois. It's not that आज मैं पढ़ रहा हूँ ये किताब, I will also go and start try and this will become my dharma, that I also have to save nature and everything. No, but I will be so inspired. Oh wow, look at these people, they're ready to sacrifice everything in the name of dharma. Can I not bring the same kind of intensity to my day-to-day life? Can I not bring it to my relationships? Can I not bring it to my work? And then beauty happens, and that is where we understand Bharat Sone ki Chidiya. It was there. It was there because all these things were part of our education system and part of our living. So yeah, that's where we are, I guess.
When Kushar was talking, there was something I remembered. He started this conversation with his ex-girlfriend, which later became an inspiration for him to do this. It reminded me of the Tulsidas ji's wife story, Ratnavali, right? Kushagra, I'm sure you know this. So there was this one night when Tulsidas ji was in love with his wife. Okay, he loved his wife to no end. And there was this one night when the river was in spate and the wife was, I think, at her own parents' place or something like that. And he swam across the river, mistaking, I think, a wood log was a dead snake, and he swam across with great difficulty just to be with her, spend the night with her. And when he reached there, Ratnavali rebuked him that, this is not showing in your behavior, your Ram Bhakti is not showing in your behavior. What are you doing? You came all across. Itna agar tumne effort Ram Bhakti mein lagaya hota, tum kahin ke aur ho gaye hote, kuch aur ban gaye hote. And that is when it struck Tulsidas ji, and he said, yes, and he got into this act of bhakti really intensely, and that is when he produced the Ramayana. He wrote it, and his whole poetry journey really went to a very high level after that. So sometimes I think we all need our Ratnavalis to that extent, no?
I think that's the beauty of talking to two storytellers. You don't even need a moderator after a point. Great. But
No,
thank
we
you
need
so
you.
much. But thank you.
Need somebody, yeah.
Thank you so much, Kushagra, because I really appreciate you talking about your vulnerabilities, because that's very important in the storytelling journey. So, which actually brings me to my next question also, because while you were talking, you talked about resilience, and you just talked about coming to terms with your own shortcoming as a person, and that can be very hard sometimes. And dharma helps us to do that more and more, because it teaches us to be true to ourselves, and then like inevitably do better for our society. So Anu ma'am, since we are talking of personal anecdotes now, so what was the most difficult point in your creative journey when you had to channelize, say, your resilience the most? Of course, I'm mentioning creative, but then if you want to talk about any personal episode, we would love to know.
I mean, see, by the time you hit the age 50, you've seen so many episodes in your life that you don't know which one to choose. You've seen so many failures in life. You don't know which one is a bigger failure, which one is a smaller failure. So, but an intense moment that came when I was writing this book, Bishnois and the Black Bucks, and it was actually emotionally very draining, was I was writing about a conservationist called Radhe Shyam Pemani Bishnoi. And he's the person who is now known as the Godawan man of India. That's the tag that he has, though not officially. Excellent work he used to do in Jaisalmer. A young boy, 27, 28-year-old. Excellent work in conservation, water, delivery to animals, and all on his own. Independently, he had filed some 35 FIRs against poaching, and he'd done this fantastic work. So I have a section in my book where I talk about the leading lights, and towards the end of the book, where I had written this whole section about him as the future of conservation. This is when young people take over, this is what happens. And one fine day, this was a little after Operation Sindoor, I got a news that he was chasing some poachers, and while the chase, his vehicle met with an accident, and he passed away. And the pictures that came on the WhatsApp message of his, I mean, the vehicle was tangled and mangled in such a way, the whole thing, to move him from the future of conservation into the past tense, into the earlier chapters on martyrs. I think it broke my heart. And I think I spent almost 1.5 months that I did not change the tense. I did not want to do it. And it kind of upset our schedule a little bit also. But that, I think, was the most heartbreaking thing that happened during the course of this writing, just to change him from the future of conservation into the past tense as a martyr. Oh, it broke my heart completely. So I think that there are many such incidents that come, yeah, but this is the most recent one that happened during this book. And sometimes you just wonder, were you just sent there to write his story as a Sakshi Bhav, in a Sakshi Bhav? Like, what did just happen? What happened here? So, yeah, I think storytelling has its own, flip sides also.
Thank you so much for sharing that story, and it's really heartbreaking. And I mean, more power to you, all the more for actually capturing his story and ensuring that people get to know about the wonderful things that he was able to do. So while ma'am, you were also talking, and Kushagra has also been highlighting this over and over in his responses. A fundamental part of dharma is social justice, and that is something that both of you have tackled very beautifully in your respective books. Now, social justice in the contemporary context is uh, has become complicated because I mean we are living in a time where there is a lot of social and personal turmoil. So, how do you look at social justice from a creative and personal lens? And what were some of the lessons that has helped you to become better yourself and to do better for your community? So, we'll start with Kushagra.
I think we need na jab tak there will be differences when we work on the material platform. There will always be differences. Because I am not a neta seeking votes, so I can speak directly. I can speak what I genuinely feel and observe. In my whatever life that I've lived, whatever I've seen, I've realized there are differences. Human beings will create differences. It is not about Hinduism, Islam, and whatnot. It's not about India. It's not about Pakistan. It's not about US. Everywhere there will be differences as long as we are working on the material platform. The differences start to seed all this, about identity, about caste, about your gender, all of these things, they start to dissolve when you start working on the platform of spiritualism. And that spiritualism, it's like, again, ma'am also again quoted the Bhagavad Gita, and it is like my favorite book. That is what got me into, whatever it is that I do in my life, whatever good that anybody sees, I tell them, whatever good you see, it is because of Bhagavad Gita and Krishna. Krishna speaks about how, when a person who's operating on a transcendental platform, that beautiful verse, Shuni Chaiva Shapaki Cha Pandita Samadarshana, he uses the word Samadarshana, that a true Pandit, he sees that same essence, that same soul in a cow, in an elephant, in a Brahmana, in a so-called, not such an high caste person, whatever it may be, the person sees the same. So now when you're seeing the same essence, the same Paramatma, in which Goswami Tulsidas ji very beautifully encapsulates, Hari ko bhaje so Hari ko hoi, jaat paat puche nahi koi. We in this land, this is not highlighted enough. And not many people are even aware. There is this beautiful statue called Statue of Equality in Hyderabad, near Hyderabad. It has been of Sripad Ramurjacharya ji, who worked so tirelessly. It's not about how to ensure that people are able to come to a platform where people are able to work and not see those differences, the material differences, the differences in how we appear in this world and what our roles are. I genuinely feel that the role of dharma here becomes, if a person truly follows dharma, you transcend all these dualities of Maya. And there will be dualities once we're there in this material world. There is no doubt about it. But when you keep rising, you keep following your dharma, you keep rising in your understanding and having the right kind of ideals, those differences start to come down. Now I'm not interacting with Vinny. Oh, she's a woman, she's a girl. Oh, Anu ma'am, oh, she's this lawyer, she's on this position, she's this wonderful author. Yes, all those things will remain, but also at the same time, they are spiritual sparks of the divine that I choose to worship. Or even if I do not worship, every person is there is that latent divinity that is lying hidden. So how will my interactions then be? If I'm truly always fortunately, if I come to that state and I start operating on that state, does anybody need to tell me, like, again, again, I'll come back to this book, why are these people, they're seeing the divine in for some people, like, here it's so beautifully mentioned that the difference in Western civilization and here is that yahan pe it is organic. Why? Because we are seeing in the black buck, we are seeing Bhagwan. We're seeing the divinity even in the black buck. We are seeing the divinity in the trees. We're seeing. अब यहाँ पे बताना नहीं पड़ता. Of course, sometimes it is very hard for people to digest when they see what is happening to our rivers currently, to the environment, and so on and so forth. But I am really, really sure that if we slowly and steadily turn back towards dharma, all these issues of cleanliness, hygiene, everything that we see, rivers आप अच्छे से नहीं कर रहे, गंगा माँ की पूजा कर तो ये नहीं हो रहा, अरे सब होगा, सब होगा. अंडरस्टैंडिंग ही नहीं है ना, लोगों में अंडरस्टैंडिंग ही नहीं है. लाइक मैम सेड, बस आप अभी आप अपने आर्त जिज्ञासु अर्थार्थी, जैसे उन्होंने बोला, इन इतने कामों के लिए आप यूज कर ले रहे हो धर्म का. Transformation of heart will come when we reach that platform, when we start seeing that same divine essence everywhere. अब मुझे पता है that if I hurt another person, if I hurt an animal, even an ant for that matter, जो so called हो सकता है in the larger scheme of things may not matter, but from a dharmic consciousness, even the life of a little ant matters. then you realize, अच्छा यहाँ पे ना ये बताना नहीं पड़ता था, जाओ एनिमल वो करो और कंजर्वेशन करो, ये करो. आपकी एक रोटी गाय की बनती है, कुत्ते की बनती है, क्यों गाय कुत्ता बोल दिया? ये सब आपके आसपास लोग रहते हैं, सिर्फ आप अपने को फीड नहीं करोगे. गृहस्थ आश्रम में रहने का मतलब ही ये होता था that if you're living in a house, in a society and everything, then you have to take care of everybody, not just your own self, but for everybody else. In fact, in Bhagavatam, there is a very beautiful story where Manu Maharaj's son was Uttanpad and Priyavrat. Priyavrat wanted to take sannyas. So actually Brahma comes that, beta, get into in a grihastha life. You get involved in a grihastha life, start understanding, take up responsibility. सबसे पहले आपकी responsibility of family. Then you extend it out to the society around you, to the animals, to the plant life, to the animal life and everything. That can only happen when you're seeing everything as divine. This is what my personal understanding has been. And also I realized when I am at least attempting to come to that level, I am much more peaceful. My interactions with the world become much more kinder, nicer. And I am more willing to let go of the human tendencies of, lust, anger, greed, all of those things. So yeah.
Very animatedly answered. I love the energy that Kushagra you're bringing to the table. I liked how you mentioned about the Grihastra Jeevan, because that will take me to Anu ma'am, because ma'am, you're a lawyer by profession, and I think social justice, like, you understand it the most in this panel, because you, I mean, the level in which that you operate, it's pretty macro. So, what has your experiences, how has your experiences been when you are looking at social justice today, and how is it reflected in your book?
Well, the journey of the book started from the legal case of Salman Khan versus the state of Rajasthan in the black buck poaching case. The case has been going on for 28 years, right? So the concept of justice, while I hope that there is speedy justice, but it's almost been 30 years, So when we say social justice, there is a big element of the legal side, the court side, which is somehow we don't look at it in our present day context because we feel that we have no control over it, no, that we don't know how it works, we don't know when will it happen. So justice का एक बहुत famous एक phrase है that justice must not only be delivered but also appear to have delivered, right? Because we should feel that yes, justice has been delivered. We should feel that. So that part, when there are a lot of delays, we feel that no, social justice has not been done, and we feel justice has not been done. And coming to social justice, we tend to equate equality with equity. What we seek to do is equity in justice. That is for the same kind, for similar kind of things. There can never be an absolute equality in any society. There has never been, and there never will be. But what we seek to deliver is equity in similar situations, right? And a lot of times, I mean, as a lawyer, I feel that I wish there was more. I wish there was better delivery. That is something which we all feel as a society. But as a Dharma warrior, I tell myself that, see, the society is made up of individuals at the end of the day. It is the individual consciousness which is shaping the societal consciousness. So if I have to change the society, then I have to do what is in my hand, not just for my work individually, but also speak out when I think that something is not going right, or something which is something which can change. So that way, to talk about a social law, to talk about an ethical code, that this has to be done becomes a fundamental duty for everybody, right? A core tenet being that all of us will protect the vulnerable, and there will always be somebody who is vulnerable in society. So all laws first seek to protect the vulnerable and then provide equity and justice to the balance. And that's the role of Raj Dharma. That is the role of justice, right? So if we feel that that is not happening in our society, I think we need to turn the खोज बत्ती अंदर की तरफ घुमाने की बात है ना, खोज बत्ती अंदर की तरफ घुमाइए, and let's see that are we doing that individually. So I think that is what I have increasingly turned the focus of my work to, that can I individually say and call out something which is wrong without fear? Can I individually call out something without fear of repercussions, that, oh, I may lose an opportunity someday? No, I will do what is right in this moment of time. And that has been something which is a strong guiding force, at least what I work with.
Wonderful. I think you've brought out so many ideas, and there is so much that all of us can learn from your journey. And it's so nice to actually have you talking to us, because you bring with yourself a wealth of experiences. While you were answering, you mentioned this term called Dharma warrior, which I particularly liked. And that brings me to another theme which links both of your work, courage. I think courage is very hard in contemporary context. And of course, with everything that's happening globally, even in our personal lives, like if we look at some very, very basic, say, moments that we go through, it's very hard to be yourself in a world that's constantly judging you, in a world that's constantly criticizing you. Like Kushagra, at one point, you also talked about how there is a lot of judgment that we go through because, of course, we are living in a social world. So, what does courage mean to you, mean to both of you? And if you want to share from your personal life or creative life, what has been the most courageous moment for both of you that has shaped you profoundly? Kushagra, we can go with you first.
I think courage it's again very individual. It's very personal. It's if I talk about my own self again, I my childhood wasn't so great, honestly, but I, while growing up, was very underconfident kid. I didn't know how to express myself. For me, all these things are blessings. Sitting here talking to you, to Anu ma'am, being part of such kind of a discussion, to see that the a work of mine is out there. Again, for me, everything comes down to, I'll again there's this movie, right? Batman, the Dark Knight series by Christopher Nolan. I love that series. It's something. It's like, it's like a tirtha for me. I visit it once a year. Everything. I'll just go through those three movies. There is one beautiful line there, and funnily enough, it is said by the antagonist. He says that if you make yourself more than just a man, if you devote yourself to an ideal, you become something else entirely. You become a legend, Mr. Wayne. He is mentoring Bruce Wayne, who later on becomes Batman. This guy, Ra's al Ghul. He says this line to him. Now I realize, if you have the right kind of ideals, you will definitely try and, because we keep learning. Everybody here is an influencer. I feel it's not just that you need to have a certain amount of following. We are all influencing people around us. Now, on a very personal level, if I Bhagwan Sri Ramachandra, he is my hero. He's the hero. He's the hero. Like, again, in the Batman, it says, not the hero that you that we need, but the one we deserve. Actually, we deserve somebody like Sri Ramachandra, because he's very courage. See, what is courage? Courage is taking, hey, sir, you were announced that you're gonna become the king in the Valmiki Ramayan. When that entire political episode has happened and Dashrath Maharaj is in a lot of duress and pain, and Kaikeyi sends for Rama, bring Rama here. You know what Rama says very innocently? He says to Sita, he says, oh, I feel that maybe, my father is calling. He wants to tell me something about the coronation that is about to happen. He goes back with a lot, he when he's walking towards his father's chambers, there's a lot of pomp and everything, because he's the, king to be. And he's told that, oh, you know what, sir? Sorry, your father now wants you to go to the forest for 14 years.
Mhm.
Is this some kind of a joke? वो क्या बकरा बना रहे हो क्या आप? वो जो आता था MTV पे, sorry, देखिए आपके साथ. What was it? How does he take? That is courage. When we are able to take even the most biggest reversals of life, nobody can expect that you're taking it. Oh, just that. Oh, okay. Well, my father could have said that same. It's not a big deal. Yeah, I'll go. That is courage. For Hanumanji, courage. Ma Sita, it was immense courage. You're in a foreign environment. Ram still had Hanuman. He had those devotees. He had Lakshman all the time by his side. Look at this lady. Look at this woman. She is in a foreign environment where every day she is being bullied, she's being harassed, she's being told that either submit to the carnal desires of this, man who claims, and is actually claims to be very all powerful, who's won over even the gods and everything. Every day she's that, and she has to carry that hope and courage within her heart. And then look at Hanuman. He comes in and he has to inspire somebody who was already cheated by another person, right? And he comes in there and she's like, oh, a little monkey has come and he's narrating the Ramayana to me. I've realized now courage again is having the right kind of ideal. So when I write, honestly, Benny, for me, again, it is more than one person should be happy, right? But the person that I'm actually trying to please is my ideal, is my hero, is Sri Krishna. Oh, if I, do it properly and nicely, I know Krishna will be pleased by me. If I just do it the right thing. When there was this time where I started doing theater also. That is why you can see those animations in my in the way I talk. I think the theater training has still not left me. It was very difficult for me. I sometimes now my heartbeat used to quicken up and I was entering the stage. Sometimes I even my limbs were shivering as I was entering the stage. And I used to just imagine, what, I'm doing it for the Lord. And through him, everybody who's sitting there in the audience, kahin na kahin unko touch kar jayega. Let me do my best. So courage is just doing your absolute best in whatever God has given you, is what I have understood. Jo bhi mujhe diya, ma'am is a lawyer. Like ma'am, is again, and how she has, included one story that really touched her, and going out there doing her research work. She's doing her dharma as well. Then again, there are so many other roles as well where it will require courage in her personal life. For me, when I take up civil engineering projects, I need to be courageous there. How I have to deal with the authorities, I have to deal with the people that I'm working with in my family. And again, I'll just end with the story. Courage, na, from Harry Potter books. From Harry Potter books, I love Harry Potter books. In the first part, Neville, there's one character. He stands up to Ron, Hermione, and Harry Potter. Right? He asks them not to venture out in the night. He says, "We've already lost points." And then later on, Dumbledore, at the end of the year speech that he's giving, he says it requires a lot of courage to stand up to our own people. Like ma'am was mentioning now, that to actually speak up without thinking कि इससे फायदा होगा नहीं होगा, but to actually end up speaking the truth. So Neville again becomes a very nice figure that I always think of. Courage is like that. Sometimes to stand up to your own people, to your own not just calling out the wrong in apparently the wrong people, but even in your own people, somebody from his own friends, he calls them out. So again, it's personal, but I genuinely believe the courage comes again if you have the right ideals to follow. I'll again come back to that same point, like a broken record. I'll come back to it again and again.
That's actually very beautifully answered. And now we know the secret of your animations. Great, you did that training. And I am loving this conversation because in a span of say 20 minutes, we started from Dharma, then Batman came, and now we are into Harry Potter.
Dumbledore.
So Dumbledore. Now Dumbledore has come. So Anu ma'am, for you, like for Kushagra, courage is doing the right thing, even if it's hard, standing up to people like you love, if the time requires, if the situations require. What does courage mean to you personally and creatively?
I think similar to what he said, courage is about walking the path of dharma, which is the path of righteousness. Eventually it is about trying to do the right thing in whichever way you are, in whichever situation you are, whether you're a king following your Raj Dharma, or whether you're a Grihastha following your Grihastha Dharma, in whatever situation you are, you try and follow what is right. And more often than not, our heart always knows what is the right thing to do, and it tells us, because at the end of the day, so there is Ishwar, no, inside. There is the same divinity inside. It guides you to the right thing. But we cloud ourselves by saying things that no, this is not right. This will not take me to the right place. I'll get reprimanded for this, or I should not own up to this. Those voices come and cloud the judgment, but the voice inside always guides us. So whether it is little children or whether it is older people, I think I always ask people to take a quiet moment in whatever situation you are and just think about what would be the right thing to do at this point of time, and you always have the answer. You always have the answer in like a flash of a second. But yes, to implement that takes a lot of courage. Sometimes it takes courage to speak out the right thing, and sometimes it just takes courage to just keep quiet also. It takes a lot of courage to keep quiet when you actually may want to just speak what is there in your in whatever comes to your mind, right? And a lot of times it takes courage, like small things, that you are in a metro, traveling in a metro, and something's not right there. Will you stand up for the person there? Will you stand up if something wrong is happening there? Or you'll say, oh no, police will come and catch me. I'll have to go to the police station. Let me just not do it. So you know what? The next time, God forbid, something happens to us, nobody's going to stand up with us too. So हम ये नहीं समझ पाते हैं कि दुनिया गोल है, and karma comes back to us. And it's a very wrong way of saying karma comes back to us. It is not really exactly. It's a much larger concept. But dunya goal hai, and we make up for that. So as a society, if we are losing courage, because as individuals, we are losing courage at every point of time. We don't have the courage to tell our bosses maybe sometimes that, okay, this was the right thing to do. We don't have the courage to tell our parents that, oh, you are harassing my husband or wife. We don't have the courage to tell people around us that, no, this is not the right thing to do. And sometimes we don't have the courage to tell ourselves also that, see, you're doing the wrong thing. So I always say that creatively also, and as a person also, just give yourself the luxury of a little quiet time and the answer comes to you.
Wow, this is really good, ma'am. And I'm
Yeah.
it actually.
I liked how you actually gave a very actionable advice that all of us can say practice in our day-to-day say existence. And it is very important to give yourself those moments where you truly, truly reflect on what is it that you want to be and which path do you want to follow. So I still have 10 minutes and I have, say, a lot of, say, participants. So I'll just have one last question and then we can take one question from the participants. So last question is fairly simple because we've talked about a lot of, say, profound ideas. So, and this is something that I would ask as a reader. So if a reader is picking up both of your books, what is that one key lesson that you would want that reader to take from your book as far as the principles of dharma are concerned? Just one. So, Kushagra, do you want to go first?
I would say, Vinny, that, जिस तरीके से ना, I could even write this book. I feel that anybody can actually, there is a reason why I've given, there are journaling prompts at the end of every chapter section. Why? Because आप उसको अपना बनाइए ज्ञान को. रामायण देख रहे हैं, कुछ भी दे दे, मैं बैटमैन से सीखता हूँ. राइट? वाई? बिकॉज आप कुछ भी देख लो. देर आर सम पीपल कम टू मी, अरे हमें नहीं पता रामायण में. मैंने कहा मैं आपको दूसरी चीजें बताता हूँ भाई. बैटमैन देख लो, आप टेड लासो देखो. मुझे वो सत्संग लगता है व्हेन आई वॉच दैट कैरेक्टर. इट्स अ टीवी शो ऑन एप्पल टीवी प्लस, बिकॉज द वे दैट गाय इज बिहेविंग, like wow, yeah, it's such a good example, such a nice beautiful human being, the way he's navigating with people being mean to him and all of the things, how he beautifully, it's beautiful. You try, and whatever it is that you're consuming, I'm not saying things entertainment के लिए मत करो, हमेशा आप entertainment के लिए भी करिए, पर I'm saying whatever it is that you're doing, that you can always take something back. Book what I have written, you will realize, आप पढ़ के एक ideally you should be inspired to read the original. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आपको लगेगा हाँ यार इतना मुश्किल नहीं है, बिकॉज मेनी पीपल आर अफ्रेड ऑफ अप्रोचिंग आवर स्क्रिप्चर्स, थिंकिंग यार तो बहुत मुश्किल है. नहीं नहीं नहीं, इतना मुश्किल नहीं है. सेकेंडली, आप अपने लेसन्स डिराइव कर सकते हैं. यू कैन डिराइव योर ओन लेसन्स व्हेन यू आर रीडिंग इट. आप कुछ अच्छा सीख सकते हैं, आप कुछ अच्छा वापस लेके जा सकते हैं, जो बहुत जैसे मैम गेव दिस वेरी एक्शनेबल इनपुट दैट टेक अ लिटिल ब्रेक, ब्रीथ. वन ऑफ माय मेंटर्स ही कीप सेइंग दैट. एक्चुअली आई वाज रिमाइंडेड व्हेन मैम वाज टॉकिंग, सर बाबा ब्रीथ, यू नॉट ब्रीथ, just breathe, just relax, and then actually answers come. So इसी तरीके से जब आप अच्छे से देखिए, दिस इज सत्संग फॉर मी, व्हाट दिस इज हैपनिंग, राइट? इफ आई एम रीडिंग मैम्स बुक और वॉट एवर इट इज, एनीथिंग दैट आई एम पुटिंग आउट देयर, माई इंटेंट एंड होप इज दैट क्या पता कुछ एक इंसान भी अगर कुछ सीख के कुछ अच्छा अप्लाई कर ले, भैया मैंने अपना पार्ट कर दिया. आई हैव फुलफिल्ड माई ओन ड्यूटी. एंड
Very nice.
सो ये वाली चीज है, एंड दिस इज फ्रॉम द स्पेस इन विच आई एम राइटिंग, एंड आई टिल द टाइम कृष्णा डिजायर्स आई कंटिन्यू टू राइट, और यही रहेगा इंटेंट.
I
How,
hope you
how did
write more. You have to write more because now you have readers who actually expect more books from you. And I also told you, right, that when we posted about your work, a lot of, say, readers actually, say, wrote to us saying, "Oh, we've seen the book. I really like the book." So yes, readers want you to tell more stories, and I hope we are a part of your storytelling, say, journey in the coming time too. So, Anu ma'am, for you, what is that one key lesson that you want readers to take back from your book with respect to the principles of Dharma?
Right. Um, pretty much what Kushagra said, no? So at the end of the book, I give a whole process of involution, which starts with me first, my family, my society slash community, my country, and my environment. So we feel like, oh, what difference can we make? It is so far away. I mean, the environment, US is bombing, Iran, so much of fumes are getting generated, the environment is getting polluted. What can I do? So start with yourself and then move up to the environment, because yatha pinde tatha brahmande, whatever you do with yourself, that is what is going to collectively happen with the environment and the universe around us. So I think that takeaway is something that I hope people can take.
Beautiful.
Beautiful, very beautifully, say, articulated. Okay, then. So I think actually we are running out of time. So I would like to thank both of you for actually. Oh wow, I have a comment from Soumya. So she loved the session. Thank you so much, Soumya, for joining. I really want to thank all of you for actually joining the conversation. And trust me, it's going to go on. It's not the end of the discussion. It's just the first say panel discussion. We'll be doing more and more of these conversations because the idea is to create a platform where everybody can speak freely and there is this healthy synthesis of ideas. So yes, I think people actually enjoyed the session. So that's a great compliment for both of you. And thank you so much, Kushagra and Anu, for joining once again. I think this was a very beautiful beginning to a beautiful initiative that we have started collectively. And thank you for sharing your wisdom, for sharing your experiences, stories, Kushagra, for sharing your vulnerabilities also, because that's also something that requires a lot of strength and courage. So, any last comments that both of you want to say before I wrap up the session? Kushagra?
I enjoyed it a lot. I'm very happy. I'm very happy because I wanted to meet ma'am anyway on her, when her book got launched. I was there, but I had to leave a little early. I was not well. So I'm very happy. And thank you, Vinny. You were really, really nice. And then you orchestrated the entire conversation really nicely. So thank you to you. Thank you to ma'am. And I hope one day I get to see you soon and I get to
Sure. I really enjoyed the session too, Vinny. Thank you so much for organizing it. And Kushagra, I've been gifting your books around a lot. So, and excellent reads and really very, very nicely done. I think Vitasta done a fantastic job with the book also. Right. So all the best.
Thank you so much. With this, we come to the end of the session. Thank you so much for everybody who joined, and I hope that all of you have a lovely evening.